This is Robert Gardner, host of Fantasy Wizards. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Nicole Kelly, host of Loud and Proud here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Loud and Proud, where we talk about issues facing the disability community. A new show comes out weekly. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Loud and Proud. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey guys!
Coffee with Keith
and Katie on Public House Media.
And we are together.
We're in the same city.
We're in the same place
in
at the same time.
Apartment. That's crazy.
The time apart did not end our marriage.
No. We're stronger for it.
It's good to be back home. If you guys have been watching these last couple times, I think we did 3 of them apart. We did a Friday, a Tuesday, and a Friday. Mm-hmm. I was in Orlando. It was pretty cold in Orlando. I was there for the Under Armour All-America game. If you did not catch it on ESPN2 on the 4th, what were you doing? So go back to watch ESPN and check it out. The top players, top high school football players in the country got together and played in the top all-star football game in the country for high school football players, and they're all going to places like Georgia and Alabama next year. She's got the shirt on, so check that out. Anyways, that's why I was there. We are back here together, and
I am on my last cup of the coffee I had to make for myself. Remember, I think last Tuesday I talked about I made 12 cups instead of 12 ounces, and a week later I'm finally going to finish that coffee. And it's really bad because it's been in the refrigerator.
She calls me in the morning. I'm in Orlando. She calls me in the morning. I'm sleeping.
Oh, it's bad.
Still, I'm sleeping. And she says, "Hey, I'm trying to make coffee. How do you make the coffee maker work?" I'm like, "All right." I'm always the one making coffee. I guess that's okay. And then I tell her to measure 12 ounces, though. How much do you want? She says 12 ounces.
There's
and
a
I said,
number
measure
12
out 12 ounces.
on the machine.
12 cup. And she's like, "Well, that doesn't look right. Like, how could it not look right? I told you to measure out the cup." She's like, "Well, it's up to the 12. That looks like more like 12 ounces.
Why else would there be a 12 there?
Yeah. We have our coffee with us.
Yes.
As you can see.
Keith made fresh coffee for himself, and I said, "No, I'm going to finish this." And it's terrible. I'm going to throw it out after
I got one of my favorite cups. If you're familiar with the movie Ted.
There you go.
Hi,
David.
David's always watching. David, thanks for joining us. So, I was in Orlando. Things were kind of funny with our show. You couldn't hear Katie one week, and it was a whole thing.
Big thanks to Baxter for producing 2 of our shows.
Thanks,
so we
Baxter.
weren't a total disaster. Thank you for that.
But we're back here, and Katie has her Alabama shirt on, so it means we have to talk about the Alabama and Georgia game that went on last night. David loves the movie Ted. David, I knew you would. Alabama played Georgia last night in the college football championship game. And if you didn't watch it, you missed a heck of a game. Spoiler alert, I'm going to let you know right now what happened. Georgia led for most of the game. They had control. They outgained Alabama by a ton of yards. They had a lot more first downs than them, but Bama doing as they always do, they just stuck around, and in the last 10 minutes of the game, they took over, tied it up 20-20, and had a chance to win the game in regulation, but for some reason, Alabama cannot recruit a kicker that knows how to kick a football, and their kicker missed the field goal to win the game in regulation, but Alabama goes back in, and after a big loss on first down in overtime, they throw a touchdown to win it. 26-23. So Nick Saban, 5-time national champion with Alabama, 6-time national champion overall because he won one with LSU. And Katie is very happy because Katie likes Alabama.
I love Alabama and Nick Saban. I also predicted that Alabama would win 38-35.
I predicted Georgia would win 38-35.
So
we got the point spread right.
We did.
Katie's
get
the winner.
Very exciting day.
She was never able to get one during the Packer season, so it's fitting that she got this one.
Never.
So you got a couple. You actually won the last one at the end of the season, so you won it. So Alabama beats Georgia. Katie is happy. So now that the Packers are done playing and Alabama football is done playing, she only has Duke basketball left.
And that not until March.
She only likes the powerhouses, and she doesn't even like Duke basketball until the NCAA tournament.
I like Coach K, and I like Duke basketball during March Madness, which we'll talk about when we get to March Madness.
Yep.
So we'll find different games of the week that we'll
games
make our
of the
predictions
week.
for.
Boom. Check out what our game of the week is going to be on Friday.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know
A few
what it
weeks,
is
though,
either.
we'll have the Super Bowl.
We're going to find out in the meantime. We're going to have the Super Bowl. That's always a good one. So
we'll predict that game for that week.
So, anyways, the title of the show is called New Year's Resolutions, correct?
New Year's resolutions.
And let's see what David
them.
says. I'm pretty much with Katie. I'm not too invested in college b-ball until the tourney starts.
Which
yeah,
I
that's
think
how a lot of people are. You got 64 teams in it, and a lot of teams make the NCAA tournament. You don't even have to be good to make it anymore. Just like you don't even have to be good to make a bowl game. If you're Arizona and if you have like a 17-17 record, you're a big name team, so you're probably going to get in something like. I mean, it's not always like that, but you can be a pretty mediocre team with a good name and you're going to get in. So, but I love March Madness just as much as the next person. But to your point, you really don't have to watch the college basketball regular season to know what's going on once you hit the tournament. So, anyways, New Year's resolution.
New Year's resolutions. We don't make them.
We really don't. I guess, like everybody, we hope that whether you had a good year or a bad year, you're hoping that the next year will be better or just as good. But
I'm not anti-resolution.
Right, but I've never been one to say, this is the year that I get in shape,
Well, I say that, but it's usually like every other month. I don't wait till the beginning of the year.
So you have monthly resolutions.
I will start this on a Monday, and I will do well. But we're talking about it today because it's the 9th. It's January 9th. We're almost a week and a half into the new year. Tell them what you observed today.
It's about when people are always super motivated that first and second, third day, almost a week, maybe even 2 weeks. But really, once you get to that week and a half, 2 week time frame, people start kind of going back on the resolutions and, 2.5 weeks and they completely forget about them. That's why I really don't make resolutions, because every resolution it seems to be a huge thing. Somebody might be, I don't know, super duper disorganized, and they're going to clean their entire house the day of, entire day of the first, and they don't know where anything is, and then they take a bunch of stuff out because they realize that they don't know where anything is because they were super disorganized, and all of a sudden they have a messy house again.
That sounds like your version of cleaning.
I love keeping a clean apartment.
You like keeping a tidy apartment. There's a difference between clean and tidy.
Anyways, but
We're
that's
not
what.
Gonna get into.
See, but that's all right. So that's why I didn't make a big New Year's resolution that I'm going to keep a clean place, because I think people think a New Year's resolution has to be this big, huge, grand thing, when really you just have to start out small and just kind of work in increments. So, like what I saw today, I always, keep a pretty frequent workout schedule. I've never been one to say, like, this is the year that I get in shape, because I've been blessed that I've always pretty much been in shape. Of course, I've gained a couple pounds since high school, but not a ton. And so I think I've always been able to stay in shape pretty well. But I was in the weight room today, not part of my New Year's resolution, but obviously a part of other people's. And yesterday, the place was still pretty packed. Every treadmill was taken, and the benches were taken and everything. I didn't get in on a couple of the free weights that I usually like to today, so it was still kind of busy. But the amount of people that were in the weight room today, as just opposed to yesterday, just dramatic difference. You could just tell, everybody was super motivated, and they had that Monday through Friday thing, and they felt really good about it. And then they did this Monday, and then they woke up in the morning oh man,
I did it for a week. That's good enough.
That second Monday in a row just sucked. You could tell a lot of people thought that. So I mean, even today, from yesterday, weight room drastically more empty than it was yesterday, which I really enjoy, because that means I can, get my workouts in as usual. In fact, when I worked at a fitness center, I worked at a fitness center here in Chicago for about a year and a half, 2 years, and there were certain times of the day that they didn't want employees working out there because, kind of the more peak hours, which is fine because nobody wants to work out during the peak hours anyways. But it was specifically after New Year's. They didn't want any employee hardly working out any time at the facility because they knew it was going to be so busy about the first 3 weeks of January. After, once the fourth week of January hit, you could start, working out as usual. But, so yeah, that's just one example. Everybody says they're going to, they're going to work out. And the students, definitely the students in college, every semester. This is the semester that I kick butt in the classroom. So every week the library is packed. Every first week of the semester the library is packed, and then the second week it's empty again. But
Public House Media says get a cleaning person and call it a day. Well, Public House, that would be a great idea, but all our extra cash goes to coffee.
We're broke.
I would rather go to Starbucks and buy extra coffee and complain about the condition of my house than hire a cleaning person. For other people, Public House.
I hired a cleaning person a little over 6.5 years ago.
Wow.
Anyways.
I actually realized I did make a New Year's resolution. I just made it in my head. So, guys.
This is new.
I don't watch movies, really. I'm never in the mood for the right movie. Keith watches movies all the time. And I just don't feel like it. I have to be in the right mood for it.
I have a very open mind when it comes to movies. I don't do horror films, but I'll do everything else. But anyways.
But I just have to be in the right mood for it.
She does.
And
it's a disaster trying to figure out what movie we want to watch together.
It's terrible.
It's a disaster.
But when Keith got home from Florida, I told him that I watched Pride and Prejudice, the miniseries from 1995 with Colin Firth, and I loved it. And then I watched it again, all in one day, and I said, Keith, you will hate this, but I really want to watch it with you. And you know what? He watched the first episode with me.
I said, okay, that's fine.
And so tonight we're going to watch the second episode.
So what was the resolution for you?
So my resolution, I'm praising you to the public. Can you take that for a second?
Take it.
You just hold on. So Keith has been really sweet and is watching Pride and Prejudice with me, and it's lovely. So my resolution...
She already adjusted it. She just adjusted it right there.
No, I didn't. Is to be more open and accepting to the movies that Keith suggests.
It's pretty vague. I
think it's best to keep it that way.
It's a pretty wide open New Year's resolution.
I don't want to set myself up for failure.
That is open to speculation and interpretation. she'll be more open and more accepting, but it doesn't mean that she'll accept my
I am not
ideas.
going to watch sad things.
Just because it's a drama, just because it's not a comedy doesn't mean it's a sad movie.
I am not allowed to watch sad things.
It doesn't mean it's a sad movie if it's not a funny movie.
Yes,
just
it
means
does.
it's a movie.
It's sad.
Moving on.
Anyway.
I appreciate the resolution.
There you go.
All right.
I thought it was very nice of me.
Before
What are
your resolutions? What do you guys? What if you guys decided to do? Maybe a few of you decided that you wanted to get in more shape. You wanted to keep a more tidy household. You were going to eat healthier. That would probably be a big one for me. You know what? Boom. New Year's resolution right here for me. I'm going to eat healthier.
Tell them what you ate during the game last night.
I know I don't eat like this every night. I really don't. And I don't eat unhealthily, but I don't eat that healthy.
Just tell them. Stop justifying.
I had a big bottle, not like a 2-liter bottle, but a big bottle of Mountain Dew. I had a bag of Doritos, Salsa Verde Doritos, the best ones, and a big bag of Red Vines.
We're a Red Vine family.
We're a Red Vine family. Parks and Recreation reference. So I had my licorice, I had my soda, and I had my chips. And you know what? Finished the bag of chips. And I think I downed like a bottle and a half of Mountain Dew or something like that, and I ate a whole bunch of Red Vines. So, but you know what? It felt great. But I have a huge sweet tooth, and I tend to snack, which is why I have to work out. So maybe I'll do better with not as much sweets. So that's a big thing. Not as much sweets this year for this guy. Boom. Resolution. Just made one.
Boom.
What are yours? What do you want to get better at? What do you want to accomplish? Let us know on the comments below, how David always does.
David says, not a Red Vine person. Are you a Twizzlers?
Keep up with you on the Mountain Dew, though. Twizzlers?
Are you a Twizzlers person, or are you just not a licorice type person?
You're either for us or you're against us, David. All right. Moving on to the game called NFL or NBA, how we always end the
Humiliate
show.
Katie.
I pick 3 names or a couple names of guys that are either playing in the NFL or the NBA, and Katie has to guess what the names are. What the organization is if they play in the NFL or the NBA. So, without further ado, number 1, Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley is a football player.
I know him, I just had to write him down. Todd Gurley is a football player.
Because I remember saying that's why he plays football, because everyone made fun of him when he was younger for having Gurley for a name.
Oh, that's a good point. I remember you saying that during the game once.
So then he had to get really big and tough and play football, and he does really well.
It's true, he's a running back for the Los Angeles Rams.
Good job, Mr. Gurley.
All right.
What's his first name?
Todd.
Todd. Good job, Todd.
Number 2,
Well done.
Jermichael Green.
Jermichael Green is basketball, played for Golden State Warriors.
No.
Oh, no.
Pretty good. He plays in the NBA.
Oh, okay.
Draymond Green.
That one.
Yes, Jermichael Green he's a power forward for Memphis.
Oh, okay.
There you go. And number 3, Kentavious Caldwell Pope.
I'm just trying to think if I've seen it on the back of the jersey and what sport that jersey might have been in. With all 3 names, I'm going to say it's football. NFL.
Plays in the NBA.
What does he have on his jersey? Is it just Pope?
I don't know. Don't know what he has on the back of his jersey. He's a shooting guard for the Lakers.
Good job, Mr. Pope.
You did pretty good.
I've forgotten his first 2 names already.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
What do those players have in common? What do they kind of have in common?
Lakers, Rams, and Memphis?
Yeah. Well, 2 of the 3 are in Los Angeles, but that's not what I was thinking of.
They all went to the same college.
Close.
They all went to the same high school.
They are all either Alabama or Georgia grads. But I went with
Pretty good.
Jamichael. But funny thing, I went with Jamichael Green and Contavious Caldwell Pope because Green went to Bama, Pope went to Georgia, and I was gonna go all NBA, but Alabama and Georgia only have one guy in the NBA apiece. That's how much football they are. The basketball programs are not successful historically, and because it's all about football at those two schools. So I'm like, you know what? And I thought about before, I'm like, I think I'm going to go all three NBA for Alabama and Georgia because they are not basketball schools. And then before I looked it up, I said to myself, you know what? I bet you there aren't even 3 Alabama or Georgia grads in there. So that's right. That's why I had to pick Todd Gurley because he went to Georgia.
That's why.
And that's why I had to pick him because there were not enough NBA alumni from those schools to play the game. So
I just did a crossword, and I'm pretty sure the answer was UCLA for having the most players in men's professional sports except for ice hockey.
Wow. UCLA is because historically their football team is good to decent to good. They usually don't suck that much, and basketball is obviously what basketball is, and they have good baseball and everything like that too. David says, "Not a licorice person. I might eat it if there's some there, but I'm not the only one buying it." So
Yeah, I'm with you, David. That's how I am.
love red vines.
We're a red vine family because Keith eats it. I wouldn't buy it for myself,
All right.
but I will eat his if it's out.
I drink your milkshake. What's that movie from? What movie is that quote from? It's a good one. I made Katie watch it once, I think. We'll find out on Friday.
Fun fact, first team that my alma mater, Milwaukee, beat in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, Alabama.
Alabama. Is that when they went to the Sweet 16?
I can't believe they even went to the tournament.
They're actually pretty decent in one year. They went to the Sweet 16 one year with...
Well, it's like
with-
Duke.
with
You don't hear
what's
about
his-
Duke football. No one cares.
With what's his face?
Yes, he says.
I forget who the coach was. Who's the coach, David?
Al Green.
No.
Who's Al Green?
Oh, Al McGuire? Were you thinking of?
Nope.
No.
I'm thinking of Marquette's coach.
The famous Marquette basketball coach.
Yeah.
Al McGuire. That's
Well, that,
that's at Marquette though. That's not UW Milwaukee.
it's the same city.
Same city. Yeah. One basketball program a little more historically better than the other. Bruce Pearl.
Bruce
That's what
Pearl,
it is. Beat Bama and Boston
Boston
College. Lost to
College.
Illinois.
All right.
That was back when Illinois had a good basketball program too. So, anyways,
Go on for
we've
days.
rambled on for a while. This has been Coffee with Keith.
And Katie on Public House Media.
Thank you so much for joining us here together again, and we will be
And I
back
think
with
we'll
you.
be together on Friday.
We'll be back with you together on Friday for more Coffee with Keith.
And Katie on Public House Media. Have a
Take
good
care,
night,
guys. Have a good week.